So this is when the entire country started going profoundly nutty, nuttier than we really wanted them to go. We announced there would be no court case, basically because we were afraid of winning, more than we were afraid of losing. Because the SDU case proved that by then they were supporting all the municipalities that had to switch either back to NADAP because there was some stock of NADAPs they found, partly in Germany. So your voting machines are actually being lent to other nation states and then returned and used. So, so they found stocks of NADAP machines for some of these communities. Other communities, such as Amsterdam, had to switch back to paper because Amsterdam made half of these machines that they couldn't use anymore, so they could never find that many. So Amsterdam had only done one e-vote, so all the expertise to do paper was still there. So we were getting kind of scared, figuring this amount of chaos for 34 communities. There's like 500 municipalities in Holland, 480 or something. 34 communities not being able to use the machine they were supposed to be using became a round-the-clock job for 50 support people at the ministry. 50. The ministry couldn't do anything else anymore. They were going completely berserk. Everybody was, and they said we have a plan B. If this court case happens to ban the NADAP machines, then we'll just go vote on paper. We later, from multiple sources, heard that they had no plan B. The plan B was to postpone the elections. Now, Dutch electoral law doesn't have postponed elections. It doesn't, because that's what governments would want to do, wouldn't it? Wouldn't they just postpone the elections? So electoral law doesn't provide for that. So that would mean Holland would be thrown into what's called a constitutional crisis. That's when government is basically illegal. And that's not something we would ever want to cause. Because if you think about it, that would make everybody really mad at us. Parties would say, yes, but that means we peaked too early, now the other guys won. All sorts of chaos would have happened that wouldn't naturally necessarily be conducive to our arguments. Then, as part of the election, and because this is really close to the elections, this is already in November, this is all happening, we announced, by the way, the fact that we were not doing this court case. We announced that by sending emails out to the press, to our press list, at 10 minutes to 1, and then we had to go drive somewhere because we had an appointment. And then at 10 minutes to 1 we announced this, and then we turned on the radio, and it made the 1 o'clock radio newses. So by this point, things had gotten really, we were the election issue. We were bigger than any party's political campaign. Which is really strange, if you think about it. It's well beyond anything we had hoped for. Because we canceled the court case, we suddenly were realos. We weren't fundis anymore, which got us a lot of criticism. It got us a lot of criticism from people that didn't understand, from people that said we should go on fighting and die fighting if necessary. These people never run in front of you. They always are behind you going, die fighting. And as part of the elections, we knew this a little bit beforehand, but as part of these elections, governments always, as part of any national election, they send out invitations to all these international bodies. Please come observe our elections. Feel welcome to observe our elections. And as a rule, these bodies say, well, you're Germany or you're Holland. Don't worry, just do your elections. Don't worry about it. In our case, we got the OSCE to do a fact-finding mission because there was obviously problems with e-voting in the country that had e-voting 100% and where e-voting was non-controversial. Wasn't a full election observation mission. What is there to observe? Person presses button, printout comes out. Numbers are consistent with printout. So we had this fact-finding mission, and they visited, as part of their mission, we had the mission visit my house, which is also a really interesting event. And it's really interesting, at least it was good for me to notice that I was telling them all these things that we had learned, like the fact that our internet voting, the government was basically supplying their own or a very close to government printing press with a list that could basically be used to get everybody's vote. And they were shocked, like, oh my God, you mean the Secret Service can calculate what everybody voted? And we said, yeah. And it's good to see that outside of our borders people actually do get shocked. Holland is a country which traditionally has a very large amount of trust in government. And governments, sort of on average, have been relatively trustworthy. So we have too much trust in government now that governments the world over are changing, I guess, in a way. Then election day rolled around. And as part of election day, I'll show you the news broadcast. Again, we made all the news.
Niet overal gebeurt het stemmen met de stemcomputer. In 10 gemeenten stemmen ze altijd al met het potlood en nog eens 24 andere gemeenten zijn daartoe gedwongen.
Dat de stemcomputers na onderzoek zijn afgekeurd, ze bleken te fraudegevoelig. Dat gebeurde bij een actie van de stichting Wij vertrouwen stemcomputers niet.
Dat werd door de actiegroep taarten gedistribueerd in Amsterdam.
This is what we did on election day.
Wij delen appeltaart uit omdat we heel blij zijn dat...
We passed out apple pie to all polling stations in Amsterdam. That's 500 of them. So we bought 2 pallets worth of apple pie and carted them and had 25 teams in a car driving them to every polling station in Amsterdam, basically thanking these people with a nice letter with it, thanking them because they had control over our elections back. Because we figured that if 1,500 people talk to 500,000 other people in a grumpy mood about us, about this crazy action group that got us to do this paper counting again, and we hate it, and and we're upset, and that's not good. If 500,000 people hear a negative story about you, that's bad. So we figured we'd do something about it.
Mensen in de stembureaus hun controlerende functie.
Het is niet alleen maar zitten kijken of de juiste mensen op de computer stemmen, maar dat is ook kijken of
De telling van de stemmen werkelijk klopt.
It's just Dutch stuff. So then the elections were over. It was December, things were eerily quiet because all the media attention was gone. And the ministry didn't do anything anymore, and we didn't have anything to react to, no press releases to write about stupid stuff that they did. They didn't have any press releases to write about stuff we did. This is all done by the Constitutional Affairs and Legislation Department at the ministry. This is normally the quietest department of the ministry. This is where people don't run, they walk. This is... and this time, they were working like crazy. There's lots of people there that just were working long weeks ever since July. And we met some of them at the Kiesraad event where they did the official results, where they announced the official counts. And some of these people looked mighty tired. We talked to some of them, and we interacted to some of the people that were on the other side, which are good people. These people mean well. They've lost control of the elections, which is bad. We must take them back. We must force them to take this control back. But they're good people. They're friendly, and they have been working 80, 100-hour weeks just like we had, ever since the elections were early and then our campaign came. So we got some time to relax, reflect a little bit, and then just a couple of days ago, the commission was announced. The chairman is a former justice minister and a former chairman of parliament. He's one of the wiser elder statesmen. We have a club of wiser elder statesmen who are actually officially appointed to help out government if something really gets bad. So the troubleshooters. And he's definitely one of them. And it really all depends on who the computer experts and the municipal election guy are going to be as to where this leads to, where this is all going to go. This is some of the questions that they've asked this commission. Really good questions. How did the introduction happen? Who was responsible? They realize something has gone wrong. A special subcommission is actually doing nothing but looking back. Which mistakes have we made and what can we learn from them? which is an exemplary reaction from government. I mean, you just do a couple months of activism and then they look back and figure out what we've done wrong. Then there's election-related questions. What is the role of IT? Which step needs to be revised? Are all the responsibilities assigned? Is the election process verified, monitored closely enough? Who should do this? What authority is needed? And then there's also voting computer-related questions. Which inherent risks are connected to the current voting machines, electronic voting in general, or voting with pencil and paper? Are there alternatives? And then they ask about internet voting, which is the only thing we need to block now. The only thing we need to do right now to get a paper trail or to get something that is verifiable is to make sure that they don't flee forward into the direction of internet voting. But I don't think they will, but we have to make sure that they don't. Anyway, so these are pretty wise questions. How do technological developments interact with the election process? Elections are weird because they don't happen for 3 years every once in a while. And in IT, the world really changes in 3 years. So every time they run an election, the world has changed. From now on, I'll be skipping back and forth between thoughts and slides and crazy stuff. This is sort of the attention that this topic had gotten before 2006. This is what happens if presentation packages have really nice graphing features. You end up using them. So indulge with me. This is my first keynote presentation. This is actually the attention this topic had gotten, where blue is just mentions of e-voting in general, and red just specifically mentions how can we trust the result. It specifically mentions the key question. And you can see 98 sticking out because there was lots of problems with e-voting, because that's the year everybody got virus scanners, and all the networks slowed down because this software package kept opening and closing its file because it was from the 80s. So that's the 98 peak. And then in 2004, those were all the press that was gotten because of the Irish refusing to use our machine. As you can see, 22 mentions in 2004 of our issue, and then came 2006. July is when we started our campaign, and we already noticed that at 30 mainstream media mentions, because these are all mentions in mainstream media, at 30, 35 mainstream media mentions, that was already above their pain threshold. That was already hurting. So you can imagine what October did to them. Now, of course, we haven't won the war. This is just humor. There's still a lot of work needs to be done. Also in Holland, we need to monitor what the Commission is doing. We need to make sure that it's not just delay tactics. Although we are confident that they really do want to change the system. They really do want to add verifiability to the elections. They do see the point. And even if they don't see the point, they know that lots of other people do and that they need to do something, because otherwise the headache is going to come back and come back and come back. These are some of the reasons. I think for me, most important is the situation in the USA. It just means that this issue is going to come back and come back and come back for the next decade. And it's going to infect more and more countries where there is black box voting. Even if nothing else happens in these countries, it's going to come back. People understood the issues. We proved actual flaws, which is really important. Also, there isn't any real adversaries. This campaign wouldn't have been this easy if we were fighting Monsanto, or if we were fighting Shell, or if we were fighting... I'm honest enough to admit that these are flaky adversaries. What, gross turnover, a couple of million, strange business of writing software used by a couple of hundred municipalities, basically good-willing people that are just misled by this one character that doesn't understand security and doesn't understand where the trust should lie. These aren't real adversaries also. And we had a lot of luck. We could have easily failed getting a NAIDAP, which would have basically made it very uncertain that our campaign would have gone anywhere. Although, if you remember the graph with the media mentions, also at 30 media mentions per month, we were convincing people. We were getting more and more serious mentions. We were taken more and more seriously at that rate. Had we kept that up, the issues would have gotten across also. It didn't all depend on getting the NAIDAP. I think it's important to mention in this audience that it was a real hacker campaign. It makes people think about trust, computers, technology.